How do I know if my kefir grains are dead? I'm going to show you how to tell if you have healthy kefir grains, contaminated kefir grains, dead kefir grains, and I'm also going to tell you what kills kefir grains and how to bring back the kefir grains from the brink of death. First, we got to know what healthy kefir grains look like. Now, healthy kefir grains, after they have been fermenting for a little while, they are going to look like they have a matte finish across the top. And when you are straining it, you're going to see a lot of the cream wants to stick to the kefir grains, and the kefir grains want to hold on to the cream. This is healthy. And if you rinse them, they're going to look white and creamy, just like the milk that they came out of. They also taste a little bit like sour gummies when they're healthy. Is that sour?
Yeah.
You also want your fermenting kefir to look like the one on the left, thick and creamy, not thin and separated like the one on the right. The one on the right has totally run out of food, and the one on the left hasn't yet. This is one of the common ways that people kill the kefir. They wait too long to feed it again. So if it's past the thick and creamy and gotten to the chunky and separated, it is overdue. And it's possible that you might have killed your kefir grains. That's what I did with this batch of kefir grains. We ran out of milk, and being in a rural area, it's kind of hard to get into town sometimes and go get the milk. And I didn't know that there were tricks that you could use to feed the kefir grains when you don't have milk. So in my ignorance, I just shook it up a couple of times and hoped that there would be enough sugar in there for it to get through until we were going back into town. But it wasn't good enough, and it died. And here's how I knew that it was dead. It was actually kind of a process. I had to strain it, of course, to get the kefir out of the kefir grains. And once I did that, I rinsed it off just to make sure there was no contamination. And then I put fresh milk in it. Now, I was a little afraid that this had already gone bad, and so I put it in the fridge because I didn't want the milk to go bad if the kefir grains were bad. And if I left it on the counter, for sure the milk would go bad if the kefir grains were bad. So I put it in the fridge for several days. After a couple of days, the milk is supposed to thicken and sour just a little bit. That's what happens when it's in the fridge. But instead, nothing happened. When I poured the kefir and kefir grains through the strainer, it ran through like it was fresh milk running over just kefir grains. And the kefir grains looked like I had just rinsed them freshly with water. They didn't look like they were holding on to any cream or anything like that. And in case you're wondering, yes, this is the actual footage from the kefir grains that died. So they're not discolored, but they are definitely not holding on to any cream. They also had no flavor when I tasted them. So instead of tasting like a sour gummy, it tasted just like a rubbery nothing. So they didn't smell bad and they weren't discolored, but they weren't making kefir anymore. So I had to give them to the chickens. Now, when grains get contaminated, that's different. They can get discolored, they can have a really strange smell, and that is not good. You can always try rinsing the kefir grains and giving fresh milk. You might throw out the kefir for a little while until the grains no longer smell bad. But once they are discolored, a lot of times they hold that discoloration. Just like when you ferment apple juice or other things with milk kefir, they will absorb the color of the thing that they are fermenting. So in that case, discoloration wouldn't be a problem. However, I do have to say, if you're fermenting other things than milk, you need to give your milk kefir a rest in between. So if you ferment apple juice, make sure you do at least 2 batches of kefir. I would recommend 3 before you ferment something else other than milk. If you haven't done any other kind of fermenting with your milk kefir grains, then discoloration means that there was definitely some kind of contamination, and you need to rinse it out and give it a fresh batch and see if you can clear that off. Now, you might have to run 2 or 3 batches and throw away the kefir until the grains have had a chance to recover and get rid of their strange smell or their bad taste. Otherwise, you might need to get some new kefir grains, which is kind of a bummer. So you really just need to avoid starving your kefir grains by not feeding them enough, or by feeding them other sugary liquids and not giving them enough milk in between. And remember, if your kefir grains are in recovery, whether it's from starvation or contamination, you need to give them more milk. So while you normally want to have 1 cup of milk to every teaspoon or tablespoon of kefir grains, in this case, you might want to give a cup to a cup and a half for every teaspoon of kefir grains, just to make sure it has enough to really help it recover. Now, if you want to see the things besides milk that I ferment with milk kefir grains, then you're going to want to subscribe because those videos are going to be coming out soon. And if you have any questions, of course, pop those into the comments. I love to help people with their questions. And when you like and share these videos, it also helps me to reach other people who have more kefir questions. And I really appreciate that. So thanks for liking, sharing, and subscribing, and I'll see you on the next video.